I'm Amanda Fancy. I'm the dealer owner of Gals Home.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this regularly scheduled meeting of Bridgewater Town Council to order. And as always, the town of Bridgewater is located in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded and ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and it is our privilege to be here. Just a little, at the bottom of your agenda, it shows that we have an in-camera meeting under Section 22(2)E of the Municipal Government Act. That's been updated to reflect that we have 2 items under that same section, which is contract negotiations. So with that, can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please? Councillor Tanner, seconded by Deputy Mayor Fagier. All those in favor? Thank you. And down to announcements. It's been a busy few weeks since the last time we were here. I just want to mention the Every Child Matters exhibit at the Des Brisés Museum is ongoing, I believe to the middle of June. And admission to the museum is free or by donation, and so I'd encourage people to take a look at that exhibit. Are there any other matters, any other announcements for council? Oh yes, thank you. It is wildfire season, and I'm sure we all remember what that was like last year. And so just a reminder to folks that. You know, the burn ban is updated every day in the afternoon. It's something that you must adhere to. You have to be very, very careful. I think there's so many different ways to start a fire. I don't think people think about even if you drop a piece of glass on the ground, how that can magnify and then turn into a fire. We had a fire on the trail, Centennial Trail, last week that only by the quick response of our Bridgewater Fire Service was that put out quite quickly. Otherwise, with how dry it is, that could have been just catastrophic. So, thank you to our fire service, which is exceptional, of course, but also just a reminder that we have to be very, very careful. And if you see smoke, please call that in. Better that the first responders show up and find out it's just someone having a bad experience with their barbecue than making the assumption that it's all okay and then finding out that we've lost some homes or worse. Other announcements, Councillor Conklin.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to pass along good luck and best wishes to Bridgewater resident Luke Woodworth, who is the captain of the Drummondville Voltigeurs in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. He led his team to the President's Trophy, so Quebec League Championship a couple of weeks ago, and they're now at the Memorial Cup in Saginaw, Michigan. Unfortunately, they're 0-2 so far, but they still have a chance of making it to the next round. But anyway, I would just like to recognize Luke. It's a great accomplishment for a kid from little old Bridgewater.
That's awesome. Yes, thanks for that. Any other announcements? Community Connections event is coming up in not too distant future, so I would in a couple weeks, I think, couple weekends. So I encourage people to check that out, and of course you can, if you have any events that you would like to add, you can go to the Town of Bridgewater's Facebook page, and there's the bulletin board that gets updated every week, and you can just add your event to that. Okay, we are down to delegations, and I know we have a delegation from Lunenburg Pride here to talk about the 2024 Pride Week and lots and lots and lots of events. So just if you could reintroduce yourselves and share what's coming up.
Hi, my name's Darlene Higgins. I'm co-chair for Lunenburg Pride.
And I'm Kay Skinner. I'm a director at large. So I'll be doing the clicker and helping with questions at the end.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mayor Mitchell and Council. Thank you very much for allowing us to speak with you this evening. We are here tonight to give you a brief overview of what we are speaking with tonight. This is our agenda that we are going to go through tonight. Not in very details, but we will go through this detail by here. First of all, who are we? We are a nonprofit association representing the Pride community in the South Shore. Lunenburg Pride is committed in building a conclusive community For more information about what we are and our events that we can follow on our social media, and check out our newly released website, which is lunenburgcountypride.com. In 2023, we had an amazing Pride Week. This was our first annual Pride Week parade in the South Shore of Nova Scotia, held here in the town of Bridgewater. During the week, we hosted other events, which were quite successful. We're here tonight to ask support once again for the 2024 Pride Week events. Our proposal is to have a Pride Parade in the town of Bridgewater, following a kick-off street celebration on King Street. And this will be happening after the parade. We are asking for the town of Bridgewater to support our second Pride Parade. This would include blocking streets off from High Street, Empire Street, and King Street for the time between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. in the afternoon of Sunday, July 7th. Based on our feedback, this event was quite enjoyable last year, and folks were looking forward for this parade for this year. From our feedback survey, we also heard from folks that wanted to celebrate the continuing after the parade. We have people requested of all ages events shortly after the parade and continuing a kickoff celebration. Now, the kickoff block party, guided by the community feedback, we are requested a support of a kickoff block party on King Street following the parade. Our vision for this event to host it from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. with setup of particular groups starting at 4 p.m. During this event, we will have family activities, food vendors, hopefully live entertainment in the waterfront, and support from you would a partial street closure on King Street following the parade until after the event. We have submitted a flag raising request, and we hope to raise the progressive flag on Tuesday, July 9th at 6 p.m. in the Shipyard Landing. The flag raising is very meaningful to the Pride community, and we are thankful for your continuing support on this tradition. And we always look forward to sharing a barbecue with Town Council during that time. Thank you very much for your time to speak with you. Now, if there's any questions, we would love to answer.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Councillor Conklin.
Hi. The flag raising, have you considered moving it to the 2nd? Only because there'd probably be a lot of questions being asked why we don't have the pride flag raised for like the 7th and 8th when that weekend is getting underway.
We've currently reached out to all of the municipal units to ask for the pride flag raising to be on Tuesday. This is for a variety of reasons. Primarily, our small nonprofit is a group of 10 folk, and a parade and a block party take a lot of assets and resources.
Yeah.
And that way we can have those events as dedicated events within our Pride Week to really bring folks together. Because Pride did start as a protest march, so we want to start it as a protest march. We know that the flag raisings did occur well after in history as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Hopefully that provides some rationale for you, and we did look at the best dates, but
Yep.
Tuesday did tend to be the best date in our overall calendar.
And we would like to be there when we're doing
Of course,
the flag,
yeah.
so it gives us an opportunity to get involved in each of the communities.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Other
Thanks.
questions? I know this is the second year. I think we had lots of questions last year, so
Yeah.
fewer questions this year. And this is on our agenda
Yeah.
further on this
Perfect.
evening to discuss.
Perfect.
Perfect.
The one thing I will say before we go too is the block party, we did request it from 5 to 7. You might have questions when it comes down to discussion about the parade ending at 3 and that block party starting at 5. Many folks that are marching in our parade will be going until 3. We want to give them an hour to rest in the shade and to get hydrated because of sun safety, and then have time to set up and get folks in those spaces, and also respect if where things may need to be moved for street closures as
Yes,
well.
for
So
making
it's
the town of Bridgewater to do their blockage on the streets, and not just to give them the time frame.
So that gives you some context for that 2-hour break between those two pieces as well.
Great. Other questions from council? Councilor Thorburn?
Yeah, well, you've got it blocked off of your parade. Why didn't you just leave that section blocked from there down?
Yeah,
Rather than open it up, then close it again?
Yeah,
Just-
that's part of the request, is just moving the blockage.
Right.
So that it's Old Bridge
Right.
to
Dufferin.
Dufferin.
Yeah,
So that will hopefully stay closed if you approve.
sure.
So that we can still start setup
Sure.
for us.
Yeah.
But for the folks that need that hour sun safety break so that they don't get heat exhaustion or heat stroke, they won't be asked to go there until 4 o'clock for setup.
I just asked that question so that you wouldn't have to tear down and set up just to
Yeah.
keep it blocked.
Yeah.
That particular area, and
That would work
then you have
for
all
us.
kinds of time.
Yeah,
Great,
yeah.
thank you.
Other questions? All right.
Perfect.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know there's some folks here to discuss another matter on the agenda, but if there's any other delegations that wish to come before council, not related to the property matter on Glen Allen, now's the chance to come forward. If not, we have the minutes from May 13th regular council meeting. Can someone make a motion to approve those unless there's any issues with them? Councilor Thorburn?
I would move that town council for the town of Bridgewater approve the May 27th, 2024 town council meeting agenda minutes as circulated.
Thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Frazier. All those in favor? Perfect. Thank you. Okay, down to community development. We have document 24089, recommendation from Heritage Advisory Committee, renaming a portion of Logan Road. Turn that over to Mr. Brown.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So yeah, when a portion of Logan Road was closed, the street became disconnected with two existing segments, one on either side of the closed portion. The segment from King Street will remain Logan Road, and the other, and will turn across the highway eventually when the overpass is complete. The segment up for renaming runs from St. Philip Street to Highway 325 in Wildville. It's been known as Pleasant Street Extension. In accordance with Policy 16, street naming and renaming, it shall be the policy of council that the Heritage Advisory Committee, in consultation with the Development Officer, make recommendations for the naming of streets or renaming of streets. However, in this case, staff allowed the municipality of the District of Lunenburg to take the lead on the renaming process, since the subject section of street slated for renaming falls within the jurisdiction of the municipality of the District of Lunenburg, in addition to the town of Bridgewater, of course, but with the vast majority of the street segment falling outside of town. The District of Lunenburg process includes a notification to property owners addressed on the subject street and provision of a blank petition for the selection of a unique name. After at least one unsuccessful petition, an ensuing petition for renaming the subject segment of Logan Road to White Pine Drive was received on April 2nd, 2024. The rationale received with the petition for White Pine Drive states that white pine is the dominant tree species along the street, and as a local native tree species, the white pine is very common all over Lunenburg County and adds to the beauty of our local forests. Council at the municipality of the District of Lunenburg passed a resolution on April 9th to rename the subject segment of Logan Road to White Pine Drive. Subsequently, the proposed new name was discussed at the April 10 meeting of the Bridgewater Heritage Advisory Committee. The committee discussed the name White Pine Drive in consideration of the town's street naming and renaming policy and made a motion to recommend the new name for the subject segment of Logan Road within the town of Bridgewater as White Pine Drive.
Any questions from council on that? Seems quite fitting. Is someone prepared to make a motion to that effect? Councillor Thorburn, thank you.
I would move that town council of the town of Bridgewater endorse the recommendation of the Heritage Advisory Committee and rename a segment of Logan Road as identified in Appendix A of document 24-089 to White Pine Drive.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Tanner. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And you might as well not go too far, Nick. So our next item is the site plan appeal for Glen Allen Drive. Is that supposed to be, say, 349, 351, 353, I think? Glen Allen Drive. And so this is a public hearing. So unlike other public hearings where I recess council and go back in, we don't have to do that. But I will just note that council's decision on this is final, that there is no appeal of the appeal. And we'll go through a kind of a series of who speaks. So first, the planner will speak. I don't believe the applicant is here.
The appellant is here. We have a written submission from the landowner
Right.
who applied for the site plan approval.
And then we'll have public comments. We generally go in a certain order, so those in favor, those opposed, or any other comments, and then there'll be closing remarks by council. Questions should be directed, from the public should be directed to council, and then we can ask staff, and then of course council can ask staff questions. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. Brown.
Thank you very much. So the property in question, 349, 351, 353 Glen Allen Drive, was purchased by the applicant in 2023 from the town, together with a buyback agreement specifying development of up to 3 residential dwelling units. The subject zone, comprehensive residential R3 zone, enables the development of 3 or 4 unit dwellings on collector streets by the site plan approval process. Single unit and 2 unit dwellings are permitted as of right with permit issuance. An application was received for site plan approval for a 3 unit dwelling townhouse style development at the subject property. The application and associated materials were then reviewed in accordance with the criteria found in the land use bylaw, being the site plan criteria for development in residential zones. Site plan approval was then granted. The appeal of the granted site plan was received on May 7th, 2024. The appeal letter outlines 12 reasons, but only one of those reasons relates to the site plan criteria themselves. The appellant disagrees with the subsections A, B, C, D, E, F, and H of the site plan criteria for development in residential zones. So I will go through those criteria and provide information on how each were reviewed and assessed through the review of the application. So, the location of new structures on the lot shall minimize negative impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. The location of the proposed structure meets all applicable zone standards. And those would be the minimum setback requirements of the land use bylaw with respect to development in the R3 zone. Staff view the proposed structure as having the same impact in terms of noise, dust, fumes, lighting, shadows, or other nuisance as a 2-unit dwelling or a single-unit dwelling. 2-unit dwellings, and to a lesser extent 4-unit dwellings, are prevalent on the subject section of Glen Allen Drive and appear to have no negative impact to abutting properties and nearby residences. Whether the development is a single detached dwelling unit or a 2-unit dwelling or a 3-unit dwelling, all the mentioned housing types are considered low density in nature. The location of off-street parking and loading facilities and the location, number, and width of points of access shall minimize negative impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. So the parking requirement of the land use bylaw necessitates 1 off-street vehicular parking space per dwelling unit. The landscape plan shows 3 driveways, each dedicated to a dwelling unit. Additionally, to mitigate any potential concerns with abutting property owners, the applicant has provided for vegetation adjacent to those driveways, between those and each abutting property. The next criteria, the type, location, and height of walls, fences, hedges, trees, shrubs, ground cover, or other landscaping elements which is necessary to protect and minimize land use impact on neighboring properties. So again, when low-density residential development abuts the same, staff view no necessity for a fence or wall or hedge or other vegetative buffer between the subject development and the abutting properties. The proposed development is viewed to have as having the same impact in terms of noise, dust, fumes, lighting, shadow, or other nuisance as a 2-unit dwelling, which is permitted as of right. Next is the existing vegetation shall be retained where the vegetation is healthy and helps to minimize negative impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. The landscape plan shows the retention of trees along one side and in the rear of the subject property at the suggestion of the development officer. The appeal letter voices concern with keeping those trees, however, that'd be contrary to retaining vegetation where healthy. Next is the location of pedestrian walkways and or related infrastructure, which shall be provided to link public sidewalks and parking areas to entrances to all primary buildings. As this is low density development, there is no requirement from the development officer to the applicant for the inclusion of pedestrian walkways. As this development has 3 separate driveways facing Glen Allen Drive, each with a driveway connecting to the Glen Allen Drive sidewalk, staff determined no need for separate pedestrian walkways. Additionally, and importantly, the decision was made in consideration of the lack of space and the requirement that 40% of the front yard be covered in vegetation in accordance with the land use bylaw. So we chose the vegetation over the walkways. Next is, and finally, the location of facilities for the storage of solid waste provides for maximum separation from residential development and public areas. Staff did not require the applicant to show the location of waste storage, such as not normally a provision of low-density residential development where there are dwelling units and semi-detached or townhouse topology. So in the end, the focus of the site plan approval process is to protect nearby residents from negative impacts related largely to incompatible development. As a 3-unit dwelling is considered low density, such as a single or 2-unit dwelling, there should be no negative impacts by virtue of this development being a 3-unit townhouse dwelling. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Questions from council of the development officer? Councillor Caldwell?
So the site plan approval runs counter to the covenant. Can you explain how the covenant is involved and what responsibility council has to respect the covenant?
Yeah, so as far as restrictive covenants or protective covenants, that is something that is recorded on title, and the town and council has no obligation, no mechanism to enforce restrictive covenants. I'm not aware of any restrictive covenants on the subject property as well. There may be on adjacent properties, and perhaps there was at one point, but it's not something that staff look at, and there's no responsibility for the town or council to do anything with respect to restrictive covenants. That would be for the subdivider or the developer who put that on the deed to then come back and enforce those. But the town has no role to play with restrictive covenants.
So just further to Councillor Caldwell's question, so in the sale of this land to the purchaser, no restrictive covenants, we can't find any restrictive covenants on that parcel? So,
well, in the town's, oh, sorry.
That there were no restricted covenants on that parcel when it was sold.
okay. I think that was,
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I just wanted to make sure I heard you correctly. There were
None
none.
on that parcel.
Okay.
other questions from council? So, just based on the zoning, that 3 units is allowed. It's not We didn't rezone or we didn't have to rezone or make any, okay.
Just site plan
It's
approval.
just site plan approval, okay. Other questions? You look like you wanted to say something.
No, I was just going to state that, so with the site plan approval, one of the requirements is because there are criteria that the development officer determines are complied with or not. And it's not always as black and white, like landscaping, stormwater, those types of things that we may not get through traditional zone standards. There is an appeal process, so we notify property owners within a certain distance of that particular development, and then they have the right to appeal to council. So council's role is to ensure that the criteria, that you're satisfied that the criteria that's laid out for consideration has been met, and that's the criteria that Nick has reviewed, in particular the aspects that are in question by the appellant.
And this has met all that criteria?
Well, that's staff's determination.
Yeah.
So site plan was granted based on the development proposal meeting the criteria of site plan approval.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from council? Okay, thank you. I guess I will ask, I believe the appellant is here, if you'd like to come forward and introduce yourself, and welcome.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you. I'm Donna Russell, and I live directly beside the proposed property. And I'm appealing it, and I went from, I can't think of the street's name now. Hollingsworth to, what's the other one? Roundhouse. I went up one side and down the other in one afternoon, and I had 100% of signatures opposing it. Then I invited Mr. Brown to come to the property and explain, and the immediate neighbors were there with us. And one of the things that we did discuss was the large oversized trees at the back, because with the root disturbance from where Ziegler has chopped and where that property has been cleared, they're going to go somewhere, and quite likely either on the property being built or on my house. And Nick seemed to agree that there could be something done about that. Some of the stakes for the corners of the building site are next to great big trees. You know, if that's going to be the building lot size, how are you going to leave those great big trees? They're dangerous. It's dug out right beside it. This little area of Glen Allen, we're a very close-knit community. We take care of each other. We're all concerned about a triplex. Duplex, we welcome because it's structured. It has a nice roadside appearance. I mean, we're not a young area. Most of the people are 60s and older, and this is our retirement home. And I think anybody can say what they want about the covenants and the criteria, and you can say, yes, it's all been met, but no, it hasn't. I think it's going to have a very negative impact on our little piece of Bridgewater. Anybody got anything else to say? I'm a little bit nervous, and I don't know what I'm supposed to be saying and what I'm not.
No,
but-
you're doing great, and I'll tell you, when I stand on the other side, I get nervous.
Well.
So
Haven't done any public speaking
no,
lately, so.
you're doing great.
Anyway, if anybody has any questions for me, I can, to the best of my knowledge, can try to answer, but I can tell you that when I bought 357 Glen Allen, I was given the protective covenances before I could purchase by the Realtor. And then it was in my legal documents when I signed for the house. So I'm wondering why next door, being sold 2 years later, wouldn't have protective covenances.
That we consulted with our legal counsel. The property was migrated into the land registration system, and there were no covenants associated with that particular parcel. Why that happened, can't speak to that. Just to know that when the town took over ownership of that parcel, there were no covenants on it. So when we conveyed it, there were no covenants to convey with that.
That's funny because twice we called the town and we wanted to buy that particular piece of land. And in order to do that, we had to jump through hoops, say what would be there and when would it be put there and everything else, which we couldn't, off the top.
That's pretty standard when we sell parcels. Council has performance requirements, so they want to ensure that the parcel gets developed, that it doesn't get land banked and then flipped by someone at a later date. So the intent on all parcels on Glen Allen, we have what we call buyback agreements or performance agreements that state when are you going to build it, you have so many years to get it completed, or if not, the town may go in and buy it back. So those are pretty standard questions that we would ask and wouldn't be related to covenants.
Does council have any questions, Councillor Conklin?
Excuse me. So let me get this straight. So at one time there were covenants, protective covenants on this piece of land, and then when it got migrated over, when was this coming from land from the BDA to the town?
I'm not too sure when it was migrated. I can assume that might have been the reason why, but our legal counsel has advised that there were no restrictive covenants on it when it got migrated. And that was prior to our legal counsel doing work on it. So it would have been when we had ownership of it. And I believe we got that parcel from the BDA. Yeah. So when the BDA folded, then there was a process of where the town migrates parcels as well. But when the Land Registration Act or system came into place, I don't know the date of when that all happened. I could get that for council, but when we sold the lot, and that's probably what's important, there were no restrictive covenants attached to that. And as Nick kind of indicated, I mean, there's restrictive covenants on many of the subdivisions, say in the Glen Allen area, mine as an example, but it's up to the property owners to enforce that. So if my neighbor does something that the land use bylaw allows, but that the restrictive covenants don't allow, then it's up to me to then challenge that outside of the town as an organization.
Okay, so I guess here, the landowner isn't challenging the covenant because the landowner has no covenants. So I guess what the appellant, Mrs. Russell, is arguing is that you have a copy of covenant.
Yes.
And
I believe everybody on our street does.
I don't know. I don't know if I do. Maybe I do. I'm on Glen Allen, and I'm not 60. I'm close, but not 60
Well, you're not in
yet.
our little section either.
Okay, that's, yeah. That's kind of weird about the covenant thing, not about me being almost 60.
That's also kind of weird. Other questions from Mrs. Russell? Councillor Thorburn?
There was quite a discussion on the large trees there. Who is going to take responsibility for those trees if anything were to happen upon development? I mean, if they dig the roots out and the building's right next to it, chances are they're not going to stay very long. So
the landowner does note in his appeal, which we'll read for council, that they're willing to address those trees, remove them if that is so the desired. They're just trying to follow the requirements in the land use bylaw, which requires native species. And so the trees were considered to be native to that area.
So we have a plan.
So it would be their responsibility.
Okay,
yeah.
great, thank you.
And
Councillor Caldwell.
correct me if I'm wrong, the development officer would enforce that, correct?
The development officer enforces a landscaping plan that's submitted with the site plan approval. So if the trees are considered to be an issue, then we would ask that they be dealt with.
But going forward, if any of us as landowners have a tree that's on our property
It's your
that
responsibility.
falls somewhere else, that's our responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's today or 50 years from now, that is the landowner's issue,
Great, thank you.
and that wouldn't change.
That's right.
Yeah. Other questions
No, it's good.
from Mrs. Russell?
I have another question. I don't know if this is true or not, it's what I heard, that a single property doesn't get any extra monies, a single dwelling. A duplex gets a little bit, but if it's a triplex or a fourplex, they get some extra government money? Is it?
There's, normally that's for affordable housing, so I don't know the arrangements that this particular developer may or may not have undertaken with respects to applying for grants for affordable housing. And I'm not too sure if it's an affordable housing
I
development.
think so.
But again, the land use bylaw wouldn't, it would be irrelevant in the case of using the site plan criteria to determine whether or not it complies.
And there'd be nothing coming from the town anyway.
No,
We don't-
that'd be provincial or federal, and I don't know if they did or not.
But I don't think anywhere it's stated that it's an affordable housing development or anything like that, so there would be no,
No.
if it's just market rate housing, then there'd be no incentives for them to build.
So this was a proposal. I've appealed it. But basically, from what I can understand from what Mr. Brown said and what I'm kind of hearing here, it's probably a foregone conclusion.
The council, well, we haven't really debated it yet, but I'll just, for me, I have to make data-driven decisions based on if it's allowed by the rules, and we apply those same rules to everybody, and it's met all the criteria. I don't know how I would say no, because it is allowed. You know, the trees, I understand your concern with the trees, but that gets addressed as, he's stated that he would address them if there's an issue with them. But a triplex is allowed by site plan approval, so.
But in keeping with what I had to live with when I bought the protective covenants, it states that there should be a garage.
But there's no protective covenants on the, so for what, I don't know.
So everybody else in our area has one, but this just got thrown out, and you can build a multiplex or whatever you want. I mean, there's going to be implications, 3 little houses or whatever they're going to be. It's a small lot. It's smaller than my lot, and the footprint is half of it, half of my house.
So some of this is subjective, right? So we don't know what's going to happen. You know, normally when there's new development, property values don't go down in the surrounding areas. We had we had a similar discussion with the housing that's going towards the field house. So there's a number of units that, so many more than this going down there. And I know some people raise that concerns about property values, but there's no data to suggest that, you know, if it's built to a proper standard, that it would lower property values. But again, our decisions have to be based on, we have a set of rules, and we have to apply those rules equally. I understand your frustration with the restrictive covenants. I don't know.
Well, and also I was told when I bought in 21 that would only be a single family dwelling on that lot. And there was talk of a dog park, and there was talk of a roadway, and then the gentleman that bought it in 23 was going to build himself a house, a single family dwelling. And now we're hit with this.
Yeah, so we can't speak to what,
No.
if your real estate agent told you it was just going to be a single-family dwelling, I can't speak to that. I can think back when I was on, as a counselor, and Roundhouse Drive was being developed. And prior to that, some of the residents on Hollingsworth said, well, we were always told it was going to be parkland. Nick will remember this. Well, it was never parkland. It was always going to be residential. It was zoned residential, but they were told that.
I tried for 5 years to get a house built down there, but they were just moving too slow, and then COVID hit, and you couldn't get a date or a price, so.
So I can't, if that's what your real estate agent told you, I'm assuming that's who told it to you. If they did, I don't know why they would say that, so. But we can't, that's not our.
Okay, well, I thank you for your time. Not just my whole end of the street, from Hollingsworth down to Roundtree, everybody's extremely upset and not looking forward to this venture. And I guess the town's gonna do what the town's gonna do, but, you know, we're not happy, and we probably will end up doing that. But anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I will just say I do appreciate you coming tonight. I know it's never easy, especially when you're speaking against something. So I do say you did a great job, and you expressed yourself respectfully. So I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Are there any other people that wish to speak about this to council? Okay, hearing none. I don't know if council has other questions. Were you going to read the?
Yeah, the appellant. Do you want me to summarize that?
If you could summarize that, sure. Council has this document in its entirety in the council package. And it's probably a good time to remind the public that all the documents that we have are, again, in their entirety available online on the town's website for you to peruse. So yeah, you just want to.
Okay, so the landowner and developer in this case, Mr. Slabinko, Arthur Slabinko, was unable to attend tonight. He did wish to have his letter presented at the council meeting. And in here, he states his opinions with respect to the development and the appeal. So essentially, he notes that they, as a professional investor, they analyzed the site and the property and used the highest and best use, and determined that the site would be best used for a triplex. They compared it against the land use bylaw requirements, the zoning map, the comprehensive residential zone requirements, and concluded that 3 to 4 unit dwellings were permitted by site plan approval. And so they kind of, comparing their proposal against the criteria, decided to proceed with that. They noted that they meet all of the yard requirements as the development officer had indicated, and they provided landscaping and stormwater management plans as well. They note that they spent the last 15 months working on some of those plans to have them meet the criteria that the town has in place with respects to stormwater and landscaping in particular. And therefore feel that it complies. And I'm kind of summarizing that for them. And they do kind of note that they're concerned that the appeal is based on a like-dislike principle as opposed to the criteria that's stated within the land use bylaw for considering a site plan. They speak to the restrictive covenants in the sense that there are no restrictions on their lot based on a restrictive covenant, so they feel that that's not an argument that they have to comply with because they don't have that. And they do note that when they purchased the property, they noted in the agreement of purchase and sale that they intended to build it for a triplex. They're concerned with the amount of time that they've invested into the property if not able to proceed. Again, they feel that some of the reasons for appeal are subjective as opposed to objective based on the site plan criteria. They feel that the size of the building is no more intrusive than the single unit dwellings that are there now. based on the footprint of the building that they're developing, and they note that there are already 2-unit duplexes across the street from the property and in the general area. So they state they can't comprehend how the project could affect the concept of the area, and they feel that it's no more intrusive, as I say, than a single-family home. They can cut down the trees if they bother the appellant that much, and they would point out that per the land use bylaw, they were using native species. That was what was strongly encouraged, and that was worked into the landscaping plan. But again, if they feel that that's a bother, then they can remove them. So they're willing to do that. They note that the appellants expressed repeated expressions of concern regarding the future comfort of our project, but can assure that the project is implemented in full compliance with the land use bylaw. The act was developed, referring to the land use bylaw, by professionals who have all the skills and qualifications to calculate the necessary dimensions and parking options. And again, they note they comply with that. And that's pretty much the nature of their appeal.
Any questions from council? Councillor Coughlin?
So, having a covenant, let's say, for example, that there was this covenant in place for single family. I mean, there are a number of number of properties on that street that are duplex,
Yeah.
semi-detached. So so is it safe to assume then that those pieces of, those PIDs or those lots did not have a covenant similar to what's here for Mrs. Russell's lot?
Believe that the landowner, the BDA, owned those parcels on the other side of Glen Allen and up along where the duplexes are now. One might assume, but I'd have to have that research done to confirm that.
Yeah, because it's like every property on that street has a garage.
They have a garage, but there are duplexes. As
Yeah, I
you
know,
know.
but I wonder if they all have garages because it's in some sort of covenant?
Could be.
Yeah. If this covenant was in place and they were, the owner decided to build a semi-detached, then what would happen?
So I think staff explained that we don't enforce the covenants,
Yeah.
right?
It's the landowners that would
Yeah.
enforce that. So once it's sold, the town's no longer an owner of that. So it'd be property owners that would have to enforce restricted covenants.
So which property
Or
owners?
court.
Because the property owner himself or herself.
It'd be the ones surrounding.
Okay, so it'd be appellants and whatnot, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other
Gotcha.
questions? Again, I'll just add, I appreciate people coming in and speaking. It's not always easy. Council's decision has to be based on making sure that everyone follows the same set of rules. And so staff have explained that the proposal meets all the rules before us. So I want to just make sure council has an opportunity, if they have any more questions or clarification, that they have an opportunity to ask those. If not, is someone prepared to make a motion? Deputy Mayor Frazier?
Yes, I'll make a motion, Your Worship. I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater uphold the Development Officer's decision to approve the site plan application.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Tanner. Had a good time for discussion. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We will go down to next section. This is probably a good time to tell the public we're using a new system for agenda and motions and documents, so there's no impact to the public, but it does saves the taxpayer money, so there's the impact there. But if we kind of stumble, mostly if I kind of stumble on some of this, just bear with me as I scroll through. So down to Energize Bridgewater, amendment to PACE program service agreement with the Clean Foundation. Mr. DeVreed.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So in front of you on this item, you have three documents. One is a staff report. The other is a proposed amendment to an agreement that's an existing one between the town of Bridgewater and the Clean Foundation. And that agreement is about the Clean Foundation's delivery of services to the town for our property assessed clean energy financing program. And then you also have before you a annual report that Clean Foundation completed just recently, providing some statistics on the community's uptake of our clean energy financing program. And I'm happy to speak to any details there. With regard to the report in front of you, the Clean Foundation, which delivers basically two simultaneous program stream services for us. One is called the Clean Energy Financing Program, which has been offered in Bridgewater since 2017. And the other one is through the Energize Bridgewater program, the Energize Bridgewater Home Upgrades program, and Clean Foundation offers PACE financing for any residents that qualify and are eligible within that program. So those two programs are described within the agreement, and Clean Foundation has proposed, not just to the town of Bridgewater, but to all of its municipalities, through which it offers PACE financing administration services, that it needs to increase its administration fee that is passed on to homeowners participating in the program from $250 to $400 per file. This is an increase of $150, and based on, if you look at the annual report, this would mean that for the average participant, the average Bridgewater resident participating in the Clean Energy Financing Program, because the average participant borrows approximately $19,000, just shy of $20,000. This would increase the participant's administration fee from about 1% to about 2%, again, for the average participant in the program. Staff has considered Clean Foundation's request and finds it to be reasonable and recommends that Bridgewater Town Council approve the amendment to the contract. Just from a implementation perspective, this means that that increased fee would be updated on the program website, the customer agreement that we sign with any resident that takes advantage of the program, the registration form, and so on, and as necessary, any program information materials that we publish or that Clean Foundation publishes for us. And just a reminder that on the budget from a budget perspective, there's no impact on the town's budget because the fee is passed on directly to the participating property owner. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about the proposed amendment number 1 to the agreement for services.
Any questions? Leon? Councilor Tanner.
So, Leon, you don't feel that this increase will be detrimental to the program, that homeowners will look at this and say, boy, that's quite an increase from where I looked at it maybe a year ago, and I'm going to skip out on that because of the fee increase?
It's a little bit hard to say what the full impact would be on the program. I mean, at the end of the day, it is still a highly subsidized service that people are getting. As council may remember, the whole package is subsidized by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, which provides grant funding to Clean to offer these services. I mean, private market valuation of these types of services probably range well over $1,000 to probably over $2,000 per participating property, so it's still a pretty good deal. Staff always tells people that it's a highly subsidized rate. At the end of the day, Clean Foundation can't offer the quality of service that they offer and recover their cost at the existing rate.
Sure,
So,
understood.
yeah.
So how did, can I just, sorry, So how do we compare with what sort of goals we selected to achieve and where we are currently? And what are we doing to hit better uptake, I guess?
Yeah. So that's definitely, you know, as you can see on the first page of the annual report, which is why we wanted Clean to provide that graphic. You know, we still have a lot of unspent money through the program, that's available. We have almost $5 million in total to spend. We spent just shy of $1 million on the program. So the uptake rate has definitely been significantly higher under the improved program terms and marketing than it was in past years. I don't know if council remembers, but we used to put about 4 or 5 participants a year through our program, and now we're at, you know, somewhere in the range of about 30 participants a year. So it has increased. At the end of the day, the projections that were made to FCM were aspirational in nature. Like, we didn't have a hard way to know that that's what would come through the door in terms of participation. But the other thing is that we're only now just activating the low income stream of the program through the through the Energized Bridgewater Home Upgrades. That should provide some additional clients as well. At the end of the day, all we can do is just market it as hard as we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Conklin.
Is there an opportunity for the applicant to roll the application fee into the financing?
Yep, that's how it is.
Oh, it's not
it
up
is-
front? I thought
Yep.
300 be paid. No?
No, it's rolled into the finance.
Everything is, there's no money out of pocket for a program participant.
The 300 is if they exit the program early, right? Then the fee gets reduced to 300. Is that what you're thinking?
Okay, I apologize there. I thought that was out of pocket, so that does get financed. Okay, that's good. Another question. This is province-wide, the increase from 250 to 400, or is it just?
It would be for all of Clean Foundation's client municipalities.
Okay.
But yes, those would be municipalities in Nova Scotia.
Okay, thanks. And I guess, similar to Councillor Tanner's question, do we know of many homeowners who did not do the program, follow through with the program because of the $250 fee? Are we aware of any examples?
That's a good question. So why do people not participate, or why might they, for example, drop out? We've been running the 250 rate for about a year and a half now, to almost 2 years. I have not heard from either Clean Foundation, because they do record why people either drop out or whatever. We have never heard the application fee being a reason for people to drop out. Generally, it's not a fit for me, or it's not the right time to do upgrades, or my house doesn't have enough opportunities, those types of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Other questions from council on this one? Hearing none, is someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Caldwell, thank you.
Move the town council for the town of Bridgewater approve and hereby authorize the execution of the proposed amendment number 1 to the agreement for services, enacted changes to the services agreement last amended on January 30th, 2023 between the town of Bridgewater and Clean Foundation, included in document 20-118I.
Seconded by Councillor Conklin. All those in favor? Those opposed, motion is carried. And then now we're down to collaboration agreement with E1 for co-delivery of Energized Bridgewater services.
Last letter was hard.
Okay, so this is an item that relates to the broader program that I did mention, the Energized Bridgewater Home Upgrades. So as council is aware, Efficiency One, operating under its corporate name, Efficiency One, which delivers the Efficiency Nova Scotia franchise set of programs for the province, has entered into a services agreement with the town. It was entered into in 2022, and was intended to be for a 2-year period. And it was a fee-for-service model. So Efficiency One would deliver the Energized Bridgewater Home Upgrades program. The town would pay it for its services. As a reminder, the Energize Bridgewater Home Upgrades program was launched on December 1st, 2022. The program's goal is to achieve the town's core objectives under its Smart Cities Challenge funding agreement to reduce the energy poverty rate in Bridgewater and to stabilize energy expenses for residents while reducing greenhouse gas emissions. As of early May of this year, Efficiency One has engaged 148 Bridgewater dwelling units in energy efficiency upgrades. There's a table providing a breakdown in your staff report. And services are provided to those residents by Efficiency One's contracted delivery agents and their subcontractors, in conjunction programmatically with the town's other program providers like Clean Foundation, who provides the PACE financing services that we just discussed, and the South Shore Open Doors Association for residents experiencing homelessness, energy poverty, and housing insecurity. A comprehensive evaluation was done in the fall of how the program was going, and it was agreed between town staff and Efficiency One that there should be a set of recommendations going forward for the program into its final 2 years. And those recommendations included that the town's overall relationship with E1, Efficiency One, be restructured into a service delivery partners model rather than a fee-for-service model. And the proposed collaboration agreement that you see there is intended to replace the existing fee-for-service agreement that we have. There's a table in your staff report providing some comparisons between what we currently have and what the new agreement, how it would work. The biggest one, obviously, from a town budget perspective, is that they are offering to deliver the partnered services for no cost to the town. And that's in large part because they've determined that the services that they provide are actually very much in line with the kinds of services they want to develop as an organization and possibly eventually roll out to other communities in Nova Scotia. So they see this as a partnership opportunity, a learning opportunity. They're very invested in this. The goals and performance targets of the contract are the same. Efficiency One's role with contractors, quality control, things like that are the same. And the town has a number of service provision roles that we provide, such as the navigation service through the Energize Bridgewater Navigator. I won't provide too many more details. There's a bit of information there on how much we actually ended up spending on the initial approved budget. We spent significantly less even than had been budgeted for that initial contract because it just didn't even require as much funding as was needed. So this is also feeding into the rationale. The service delivery isn't costing them as much as what they had thought. And so staff assesses the new collaboration agreement as being a significant improvement in terms of, cost and terms. And so that is why staff is recommending that Town Council approve the proposed collaboration agreement, which will cover the current fiscal year and last until March 31st, 2025. Happy to answer any questions you may have about it.
Questions from council? Councilor Tanner?
I'm no mathematician, but it sounds like a pretty good deal. Is Efficiency One the only game in town, out of curiosity, that could provide this, that does this service? Like, I've never heard of anybody else.
Well, I would say that there's probably nobody else who's going to provide for free.
Fair enough.
You can get services that you pay for generally.
Yeah.
The unique thing, and the reason that the town entered into a unique partnership with Efficiency One, even under the fee-for-service model, is because they are the provincially regulated efficiency utility.
Yeah.
They control all of the incentives, the rebates, everything that's available for property owners. And what they are able to do through our program is they integrate all of that into a single combined funding package that we then add the financing to. So they are the only game in town that can do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Councilor Conklin?
Performance target of 350 dwellings by March 2025. Is that doable?
So it would be uptake. That's an uptake number, not necessarily a fully installed and retrofitted number.
Okay, just engage.
Is it a stretch target?
Okay.
It's definitely a stretch target, But that's the target we would have to go for in order to fulfill, we think, the full obligations of our Infrastructure Canada Smart Cities Challenge funding agreement. So the idea is that we're using this agreement as a way to push everybody on the project team, whether it's efficiency, Clean Foundation, our local partners, to get those participants into the program, do what we can this year to get in applicants, and then complete them as quickly as possible next year. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So basically, we're looking at another additional 200, right? Because we have about...
We're at about 150,
yeah,
give or take,
okay.
So about 200, yeah.
Other questions from council? Would you like to make a motion? Yes, thank you.
I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater approve the proposed collaboration agreement between the Town of Bridgewater and Efficiency One for the delivery of services related to the housing energy management system of the Energized Bridgewater program, and direct staff to finalize and execute the agreement in substantive accordance with document 22-103B included with the staff report.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Colvin. You got the easier letter for that one. I think.
B versus I?
Yeah. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leon. All right. We're down to our EMIS, our Track at Home demonstration. And Pat's just going to set this up. I'm looking at the screen. Councilor Tanner and I got the demo of this a while ago, and I'm looking at our secondary screen. I'm like, that's it, but it's not. It's the default of the monitor saying it hasn't been hooked up to anything. But you'll see when we go through this presentation, it looks like that
Very
on the presentation. So, So yeah, so for the public, we've talked about EMIS a few times, and they're going to hear Track at Home now. That is the new name that we're going with for EMIS.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. So we will be going.
You're probably going to have to speak a little bit louder.
So we will be discussing Track at Home that is basically rebranded EMIS, Energy Management Information System. This is the public-facing title for our EMIS program, and basically this is the technological component of our Energized Bridgewater program that works in conjunction with our existing home upgrades program. And these are the contents that we are going to cover in this presentation. So we will start with a bit of background, what it is about, what are its capabilities, and then we have a visual walkthrough of our consumer portal, and then we will discuss how we are administrating this program. Okay. Starting with the background, according to International Energy Agency, about quarter of world's population, about 1.3 billion people, would lose access to energy by end of 2030. And this problem of energy access and energy poverty exists in Canada as well. About 20% of households in Canada experience energy poverty, and about 50% of households experiencing energy poverty come from low-income group. And this problem is a lot more severe on the Atlantic side. About 40% of households in Bridgewater experience energy poverty. And according to the recent investigation that we completed last year, the lowest hanging fruit is the energy efficiency. We can lift people out of energy poverty by addressing the energy efficiency in their homes, in their buildings. And we can do that by upgrading the existing building stocks. And since there have been so many programs across the world in Canada, we have a lot better understanding about energy efficiency retrofits and deep energy retrofits. And in order to basically have a lasting impact, realize deep energy efficiency, we need to go beyond just energy efficiency. We need to consider the objectives that are listed over here. This includes considering reducing emissions in our community, considering affordability and energy poverty in our decision making, considering climate change in our decision making, considering integration of ICTs, information and communication technologies, to facilitate integration and monitoring for buildings, and also considering health and safety in the existing building stock. And it is important to consider that there is a strong coupling between these. There is strong coupling between these objectives. For instance, affordability and energy poverty is directly related to climate change, and we need ICTs in order to validate first three objectives as well as realize health and safety in the existing building stock. Okay, and we are already addressing first three objectives with council-approved initiatives that are listed over here. And let us dive in slightly deeper. Here we have the emissions from buildings for Canada. We can see about 13% of emissions are coming from the operational side that we will be focusing on, and about 11% of the emissions are coming from embedded emissions. These are emissions that represent basically building construction material. Okay, but we will be focusing on the most significant side, that is the building operation. Okay, and according to most recent GHG inventory, greenhouse gas inventory that was completed for town of Bridgewater, building sector contributes about 40% of emissions in our town. And in order to address building energy efficiency, we can work in three different domains. First one is building envelope, second one is building energy systems, and the third one is building operations. We are already working in first two domains with our existing home upgrades program. However, there is significant potential for energy saving with the third one, that is building operation. And it is important to note that the third one is a lot more cheaper. It is cost effective as compared to first two domains. However, it is a lot more complex and challenging due to inherent nature of occupant that is associated with each building. That could be different for each building. Okay. And so what do we understand so far? Traditional approaches to energy efficiency consider generally only the physical upgrades, and there has been an understanding that building operation and occupant behavior influences the overall building energy performance. Therefore, there have been recognition for the need for a more holistic program or solution that considers physical retrofits, occupant engagement, and building monitoring. And our program addresses this problem with Track at Home. Track at Home is a state-of-the-art tool that we have built that allows for integration of real-time monitoring, advanced analytics, and empowers users with useful insight about their energy spendings so that they can save on energy cost while also considering the indoor air quality. You can consider the Track at Home as a human-based energy retrofit or cost-effective alternate to traditional physical retrofits. Okay, here we have the framework that we have used or realized in order to implement this Track at Home portal. We again start with our energy priority, and from there we define our primary data requirements, and after doing a bit of data processing or data pre-processing, we get to data analytics, and currently we are considering energy profiling, cost and environmental impact, and occupant health and well-being in our analytics. And we are setting up equally powerful user education program with this tool to educate users on these three topics. Okay. And next we have the development environment and the production environment that we have set up to realize this framework. They look identical. However, in the development environment, we do not include any PII, personal identifiable information, and the data that we have, we provide access to some of our program partners over here. In the production environment, we remove that access. We include PII from our program participants and provide access to our program participants over here. Okay. And next we have analytical capabilities. In order to do the analytics in our portal, we have realized two data pipelines. First one is the basic data pipeline. In the basic data pipeline, we are replicating our master database on our Track at Home portal. There we have a visualization KPI tool that is powered by SQL, and basically it does the basic data processing and pushes useful insights on the consumer portal. Okay. And in the advanced data pipeline, we have a dedicated Python engine that retrieves data that is stored in our master database and pre-processes it and stores back in our master database. And from there, our visualization KPI tool only uses the pre-processed data to display it on the consumer portal. Okay. Since we have considered a bit of technicalities, we can simplify and summarize that this Track at Home is all about sensor data and providing useful analytics and pushing useful insights towards users. What we are doing is we are just installing one sensor in each home, and this sensor will monitor the indoor environment, and we are getting the energy use data from Nova Scotia Power with participants' consent, and we are getting the weather data from Weather API. And the data that we are getting from the indoor environmental sensor, it will be relayed to our master database using the existing LoRaWAN infrastructure that we have set up with 2 LoRaWAN gateways in our community. And from there, accessing our master database, we will use 2 of our analytical pipelines to process the data and provide useful insight to the users on the consumer portal. And talking about consumer portal, here now we can consider the visual walkthrough of our consumer portal that we are setting up.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Track at Home consumer portal. On the homepage, you will find a variety of analytics designed to give you insight about indoor-outdoor energy usage. You can customize your dashboard using menu view function over here. You can toggle on and off the insight that you don't need on the screen. On the Energy Insights tab over here, you will find more focused arrangement of insights that Track at Home sets up for you. For instance, see daily energy usage of a week and dive into hourly energy consumption for a specific day like Monday, Tuesday. Moving next to device management page, over here you will find all the information related to the device and its status. Need help? Use help and support. Over here you will find documentation that contains many helpful subjects like building energy use, associated cost, environmental impact, indoor air quality, and Energize Bridgewater program. Submit comments for assistance using feedback and support. There's also a chatbot here on the portal that can assist you with any questions or concerns you may have. Enjoy our dark theme feature for a sleek look. Get daily tips from this ribbon at the bottom of the screen. Let these tips with the rest of Track at Home guide you towards energy efficiency and healthy home. Hello.
Next, we have the core attributes or core functionalities that we are offering our program participants. First that we have over here is user-centric design. So our approach that we are considering over here is user-centric approach towards energy management. So it is very different from other programs. So we have a very user-centric dashboard that user can customize according to their needs. Then we are considering indoor air quality with the indoor environmental sensor. We are collecting the indoor environmental data, and we will be educating or informing users about that. And next we have comprehensive insights. With this tool, we will be offering comprehensive insights to our program participants. So what we are doing is we are integrating indoor and outdoor environmental data with the energy use. That is very different from some of the other offerings of Energy Insight. And then we have user education program. So we are setting up a very powerful user education program. What we have done so far right now is that we will be providing dynamic tips and recommendations to our program participants on seasonal basis. And next we have notification system. So the notification system that we have considered so far is not a static system that would push out static notifications on periodic basis. Rather, it is a dynamic notification system that will basically push out notification based on the process data. Okay. And next we have optimization of opportunities. With this tool, we will try to identify energy hotspots where they can work and improve their energy performance. And lastly, we will slowly push eco-friendly practices towards our program participants so that we can facilitate sustainable living. And coming to the administrative side of things, how we are administrating this program. We start with lead generation, and currently the participants who are already in our home upgrades program will be our leads. And then we have onboarding stage. In the onboarding stage, user will show their interest, and with that, we'll do the form and consensual process to access their data. And then we will provide them with sensor or install sensor in their homes. And from there, basically, we will provision them on Track@Home and provide them access to Track@Home portal. And then we have participating stage, where all the monitoring and providing useful insights will happen. And lastly, we have offboarding stage. Let's say that this stage is triggered by participant leaving the program. Then what we will do is we'll take the sensor, remove the access from our portal, and either delete or aggregate the data based on our data retention policy. Okay. And lastly, I would like to invite you all to our programs, and together we can lift our community out of energy poverty. Yeah. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
If you have any questions, yeah.
Yeah. Any questions, Councillor Conklin? Quick with the hand there.
Before I forget, thank
Well, you're almost 60.
True, on Glen Ellen. Okay, back with the slide that included the sensors. So for the weather sensor, I recall this came up before, yes. So, like, what are we using for the
weather data?
So for the weather readings, so because we don't have like a Environment Canada station close by, right?
Yeah. So we did 2 studies ourselves. We used 2 weather APIs. One was Tomorrow Weather API, and there was one more. And then we compared it with third one, and we did 2 tests for validation to realize which one would be more reliable. And we did sample testing and long-term monitoring as well. So based on those results, we settled on Tomorrow Weather API.
Tomorrow Weather?
Yeah. Basically, we compared the data that we were getting with Microsoft Weather API.
Okay.
For our region, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, Councillor Tanner?
This is exciting technology, and the presentation was great tonight. So for the public out there, when can they get their hands on a sensor?
So we have already installed 3 in 3 homes, and for the field trial, we will be doing 10 more homes. But currently it is being offered to friends and family because we are still in testing stage. But after this, we aim to scale it up to more than 100. And all those 100 sensors or homes will be our program.
But they have to have gone through the Energized Bridgewater program to get a sensor. Okay. Good question. Other questions from council? Councillor Conklin.
So this is basically like a ramped up version of My Energy Insights from Nova Scotia Power. It's more user-friendly, I guess, and it's
not just user-friendly, but rather designed for users. It is much different for, I would say, My Energy Insight. My Energy Insight only monitors your energy use, and then basically using some statistical tools or some machine learning tools, they are providing with you with approximate consumption figures or granular data for your equipment or systematic energy consumption. But with our system, what we are trying to do is we are trying to understand the energy use, how your indoor is influencing your energy use, or how your outdoor is influencing your energy use. And also we will try to validate the performance that we are able to realize with our home upgrades program. So it is designed like basically the minimum level of information that is necessary to understand the energy use is that you should get indoor data as well as outdoor data, environmental data. With that, you can understand energy use that My Energy Insight is not doing. It is only collecting the energy use data. With that, you can learn more about energy demands. That is generally the perspective of utility companies. They want to learn more about energy demands. So it is helpful for them, but our program would be a lot more helpful for users. Yeah. And also, in most of the existing home upgrades program, there is generally we are focusing on the energy efficiency or cost reduction. So obviously, we are focusing on that over here as well, and with this, we should have a lasting impact. But what is generally missing is user experience, whether or not if they have safe place to live or not. So with this program, you will be able to realize this and hopefully have a good impact. Yeah.
What I like about it is that the data you're getting is coming at quicker intervals than
Yep.
the My Energy Insights, which is like every other month you get your update telling you your stove is on, whether you have a stove or not. But just, it's kind of an inside joke that is not funny because it's real. Anyway, but I think because you get it at regular intervals, it's easier for you to perform an action, then recognize the impact of that action. This is what this cost me, or this is what this saved me by. Like if I turn my thermostat down 2 degrees and wait 2 months for the My Energy Insights, well, I don't know if it saved me any money or cost me more money, but I think with this, you're going to start to go, that had a direct impact. Or in my case, child comes home from for a visit, and all of a sudden my hot water bill went up. Then I can figure out which one it was.
Yeah, like even if you get an update after a month that something happened, you would not be able to remember what was the time and when it happened. But if you get a weekly update, or maybe if you are interested, you are able to monitor on daily basis, it would be a lot more helpful because you will be able to recognize that particular instant, when did it happen, what were the causes, who were there, who were not there. Yeah.
Very exciting. Any other questions? No, that was great presentation. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm excited. We're getting closer and closer. Okay, down to correspondence for information. We have a letter from to the province from the municipality of the District of Chester in response, and the response from the province to Warden Weber regarding the Coastal Action Plan. And again, all these documents are on the town's website under council agendas. Pick today's date, and they're all there. And you can see the letters back and forth there. We're down to reports and recommendations, and now it's corporate volunteer recognition and town donation to Pro Kids in that corporation's name. And so this is a recommendation from the Parks, Recreation, Culture Advisory Committee to nominate the South Shore Michelin Junior Bike Organization for the Corporate Volunteer Award. Is someone prepared to make that motion? Councilor Thorburn.
I would move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater endorse the recommendation of the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Advisory Committee and nominate the South Shore Michelin Junior Bike Organization for a Corporate Volunteer Award for the Town of Bridgewater, and approve a donation of $100 to the Pro Kids program in the name of South Shore Michelin Junior Bike Organization.
Thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Frazier. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. And thank you to all those that organized the junior bike program, which is, I think it's coming up in 2 weeks. Is it June 8th?
Yep.
Michelin Junior Bike. So mark your calendars. We are down to 9.2, which is, we had the delegation actually last week and this week for Lunenburg Pride, requesting in-kind costs for the 2024 parade. I guess it's for the parade and the after event, really, because it's the parade and a little bit beyond.
The street closure primarily.
Okay. Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Conklin.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater approve the in-kind support of approximately $6,300 for the 2024 Lunenburg Pride Parade.
In the town of Bridgewater.
In the town of
Just so there's no
Bridgewater.
confusion there. Thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Frazier. Discussion?
Question.
I got
Oh,
just
you got a
several
question?
questions. So this is going to include the street closure?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which was, they were looking at 5 to 7?
2 to 3 for the parade,
Parade.
and then 5 to 7.
So-
But I think they're, Old Bridge to Dufferin is going to be 2 to 7.
Yeah.
We're going to keep it closed for the entire duration, just
Yeah.
because to reduce confusion for truck traffic, and because they won't be able to back
Yeah.
up and stuff.
Right. But after the parade is done and cleared, you could open it to Old Bridge, though, right? Is that the plan?
No, the plan is to keep it closed the entire time to ensure that drivers, it's clear. that it's closed for that duration as opposed to opening it up for an hour and then closing it back down again. It would create some
The
confusion.
whole route? No. Not High Street and Empire Street as well.
No,
From
that's
Duff-
just the,
Dufferin to Empire, Dufferin to Dominion.
Okay.
Yeah.
right,
There's no trucks.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
yeah.
Like, don't close the whole parade route.
Oh, no,
Two to
sorry,
seven.
no, I
Okay.
I was thinking King Street,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. No, that makes sense. Okay,
Yes.
does that help answer your questions?
Thank you.
Okay. We already have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. That was a great parade last year. Down to 9.3, amendments to policy 89, re-pool fees and sponsorship. And there's a couple in there, and our Director of Community Development is here to walk us through them.
That's right. So since 2016, the town's outdoor pool has been supported by community sponsorship. And it initially started with a 5-year sponsorship agreement between O'Regan Subaru, the Bridgewater Barracudas, and the United Way. And they sponsored $20,000 with the O'Regan Subaru having naming rights for that. It was extended by a year because COVID interrupted and there was no pool open to the public, was not open to the public, pardon me, in the summer of 2020. So that 5-year agreement went until 2021. And since that time, we've been continuing with sponsorship to support the operations of the outdoor pool through the same community organizations. And then in the past year, more community organizations and local businesses have joined on in the sponsorship as some of the original sponsors started to provide, the Barracudas stopped. They already pay a lot as they rent the facility, and they needed to put some money to reinvest in their club, and the United Way started to support other opportunities. So we went out to the public and we attracted more sponsors. And then this year, when we went back to those same sponsors, we thought as staff we would make a little, hey, and what if you also, we created a new sponsorship package of $2,000 you could sponsor every certain day of the week. And we put that out. So tonight you have in front of you, because of our corporate sponsorship policy, anything above $5,000 requires council approval. But Michelin Bridgewater, so the local Michelin facility, has come forward with $9,000 total sponsorship, which includes continuing to be the title sponsor, the named sponsor of the cool down zone, which is the area on the pool deck with the shade sails and furniture. And so last year they put up branded shade sails that say Michelin and things like that, which was great. So they're getting that type of advertising in exchange for the money that we're having to operate the pool. And then they've also come forward with wanting to sponsor 2 additional days of the week. So that would be a total value of $9,000 in sponsorship money. And on page 2 of the report in front of you, you'll see that between that, at the last council meeting, you approved O'Regan's Subaru as the returning title sponsor for $11,000. But then when you add that to the South Shore Center, who's doing free swims for the weekends, Castle Atlantic, who's doing free swims for Thursday and Friday, the United Way, who's stepping up for a day of the week to be free swim, plus the Bridgewater and area Kinsman wanting to continue to contribute, we have now have on offer with Michelin's value here, $30,300 in operating sponsorship towards the outdoor pool, which exceeds what we had in our budget for sponsorship revenue and payment at the door, the public swim daily fees. So staff are, seeking direction and suggesting to council that perhaps we could remove the door entry fees, the public swim fees, and make it by donation for this season and see how that goes. What to do with those donations, we could come back at a later point with, what the options could be if it's just general revenue or goes into a reserve fund for the recapitalization of the pool. That could be, but as you'll see also, that we're suggesting to make it by donation for the entrance fees, the daily, monthly, or the seasonal pass. But there would be no change to the cost of private or semi-private lessons, and there would be no change to the cost of a private pool rental, because those private rentals need to be done at a cost that then recovers some of the value, because it's not open to the general public at that time. But the large group contract rate, which was in place predominantly for daycares that would come with a large group of kids, would also be by donation, is what we're proposing. So if you're amenable to both accepting the sponsorship money from Michelin and considering the by donation, then that would necessitate a notice that we would be changing the fees policy.
Wow.
Wow.
That's very generous of all the sponsors. I think it goes without saying, council recognizes how important the outdoor pool is, and, you know, sometimes even a few dollars is a barrier for people, and so if it's by donation only, then people who have no access to the beach, no access to air conditioning, no ability to cool down in the heat, now have an ability to go for a swim due to the community's generosity. Anyway, that's provided that council wishes to move forward with this. So is someone prepared to make a motion to give notice so this can be dealt with to amend the fees? Councillor Thorburn?
I will do it then. The town council of the town of Bridgewater give notice pursuant to section 48 of the Municipal Government Act that at the June 10th, 2024 regular council meeting, council will reconsider amendments to policy 89 fees with respect to changes in the pool fees as outlined in document number 24-094.
Thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Frazier. Discussion?
Question.
Question being called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. And in terms of the pool sponsorship from Michelin, is someone prepared to make a motion for that? Councillor Caldwell, thank you.
Move the town council for the town of Bridgewater approve the sponsorship offer from Michelin Bridgewater for the Bridgewater outdoor pool in the amount of $9,000.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Frazier. Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Tanner.
Just a quick question. So the lesson fees, the private, semi-private, who pays that to whom?
So last year, we, through our partnership agreement with the Lunenburg County Lifestyle Center, with the LCLC, we moved those into the Connect to Rec software so that people could do it. So they collect, so as they do with all of our rec programming, goes through Connect to Rec, and then the fees, the revenue is transferred back to the town.
Okay, good question. We have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Again, thank you to all the sponsors, so Regan and Michelin and all the groups that, you know, continually step up for this. This is a very important asset. So this is great. Down to business arising, unfinished business. We had a delegation last week, Empire Street, requesting some assistance for sewer connection, tree roots. So I know staff has looked at that, and here's the Director of Engineering.
Good evening. I'll try not to cough.
That worked.
Drink a lot of water before getting up here. So yes, thank you very much. Staff, since the delegation was in here, we did provide this report and followed up in summary in the discussion session. Just a little bit of a background. So the matter was first reported to staff on March 26th, where the resident requested the tree to be removed due to impact to the driveway. Also, there are broken branches from storms, roots entering the basement and the shore pipes. Staff did have the tree assessed by our service contractor, who said the tree was healthy as per policy. Since it's not dead or dangerous, it should remain. However, did recognize that the tree required some trimming, which we would put on the list. That's first. So yeah, we put on the list to complete that work. Subsequently, the resident called us back, asking if they could remove the tree themselves. Unfortunately, staff aren't in the position to provide that direction, so they were forwarded to council. And then on May 1st, they also reported they experienced a backup in their home. The plumber did auger their connection, and they did pull out a length of sewer roots. Just to add to the background information, so staff completed a service locate. I did attach a picture to there. The service locate is approximately about the middle, maybe closer to one side than the other, but it is in between two trees. So we're not exactly sure which tree is impacting, given the short amount of frontage or the length of frontage. It would be staff's experience that typically these sewer connections, the portion on the private property is likely older than what was installed by the town. So therefore it's likely made of cast or clay or tar paper pipe and likely compromised structurally, and the roots are entering on the private side. However, so what we suggest is that they replace their side first, installing backflow prevention and installing a cleanout. At which time, when the cleanout is installed, the town will inspect their side. If it's determined the roots are now impacting what's in the right of way, we'll replace ours at no cost to the resident. Yeah, at this point, staff do not see any reason to remove the tree or any tree at this time. We do note that if the work is required within the public right of way, that cost would be around $6,500, subject to maybe some unknowns when we start excavating, but normally covers traffic control, reinstatement of asphalt, sidewalk, pavement, and the pipe itself. And if we did get an estimate on trimming at least one tree, and it's approximately $2,000, and staff would estimate that to remove the tree, depending on size, based on our previous trees we removed, it could be $2,000 to remove it as well. So trimming is $2,000 to keep it. Removing it could be $2,000 as well. And we typically do not remove stumpage. We just cut the tree off, so the stumps would still remain. If we were to proceed with the work within the road right after the cleanout was installed and we inspected our side, the portion of the connection within the road right of way, we would try to line that work with the water line replacement on Empire to be efficient. Of course, staff would make the recommendation that you would inform the resident to replace their side, but council can certainly elect to remove both trees if they so wish.
Questions of the town engineer? Councilor Caldwell?
I guess just to confirm what you've told us is, in your experience, the pipes, tree roots would not enter a pipe unless it was already compromised?
Yes, in this case, and I'll use my home as an example. My house has the 2-foot sections of cast and how they're packed. The tree over time, the packing just degrades the mortar, and so those fine roots get in around those bells. So that's normally what we've seen in older sections of town. But yeah, typically they wouldn't get through a standard pipe PVC pipe that we install today, or that would have installed in the 80s or late 70s. So.
Okay. Councilor Thorburn.
Yeah, I walk by there quite a bit, and you can see the big roots right on top of the ground. And where that line is between the two trees, the homeowner doesn't have to replace it's not a long distance to the property line from the house.
It's
a very short distance.
It is a short distance, yeah. But staff do recognize when we review these, when people call, this isn't the first time we get these, we do recognize there is an expense that homeowners have to pay.
Sure.
That some may have more difficult time paying that than others, but in this board, at least it's shorter than others in town.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
You are correct.
Yeah, no, I had to do that with mine. There was tree roots into it, so I had to get mine all replaced to the road. But yeah, no, it's good.
And for me, my question was the same as Councilor Caldwell. So if the pipe was intact, and the roots that were in the photo were quite small, so they wouldn't have been the ones that broke the pipe.
No,
probably just decay over time.
Depending on the pipe type, of course. Certainly with the newer pipe and the sections that you lay at 13 or 20 foot lengths, then you don't have those frequent up and downs that you might have where if you're laying in 2-foot sections, frosty might move the pipe a little bit, and it just opens enough for roots to get in there. So in this case, and as well as what we've said to other residents come through, it's probably they've already replaced what's in the home, in their basement. The roots have got that far, so chances are it's in the section on private portion. And if it's found out that on the towns, within the right of way, that the roots have kind of migrated in there, we would replace that as well. So, but you have to start somewhere.
Okay, well, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Davidson? If not, is someone prepared to make a motion? This. Councillor Tanner?
I move the town council for the town of Bridgewater direct the engineering department to contact the owner of the Empire Street property and inform them to replace a section of sanitary sewer connection on private property, and that the town does not currently see the need to remove either of the town trees that from the property on Empire Street.
That front the property on Empire Street?
Yeah.
I think it's front. Okay.
I like numbers.
Sorry.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Thorburn, thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Those opposed, motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're down to our last item. The Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities sent a letter with some questions to municipalities that have municipal police service. And so in the document package is that letter and our response. I don't know if you wanted to just touch on that. Thank you.
So this would be, excuse me, the response that council would submit to NSFM to help them as they formulate their response with respects to police services and the provincial review. And the mayor, myself, and the police chief attended a session last week.
And the board chair.
And the board chair in Truro with the other chiefs, board chairs, mayors, and CAOs from other municipalities that have their municipal police forces. So some of these reflect the conversations that came up there. Some of it was discussed at the police board of commissioners as well, and so they formed their response. So in terms of pressures related to policing, the big one, there was recruitment and retention. So there's a challenge in recruiting and retaining. There's limited resources to recruit from. We compete with the RCMP for recruitment as well. And sometimes the RCMP are actually recruiting our officers, so we lose them to the RCMP. And so it impacts our ability to provide police services, and it impacts salary levels as well. So all those things have to be leveled up when we're competing with the RCMP for the same pool of candidates. Vacancies due to illness and injuries, given the type of work that's performed. The demand put on police services because of increased calls related to mental health and addiction, which are provincial responsibilities. And it was noted at the commission as well as at this meeting that it takes up a considerable amount of officer time and impacts our ability to respond to other policing matters. It adds to our costs because often as an officer is held up at the emergency room waiting to hand over an individual. They could be there for hours, and we have to call them back up, which costs overtime. So it increases our cost, and that's basically due to lack of resources within the emergency rooms to take these patients. There's increased homeless population, and that impacts costs as well. The additional officer program, we note that it's not 100% funded for towns, and essentially they're being used to backfill RCMP vacancies. So when they have vacancies, these additional officers are being pulled to fill that gap, and that in turn leaves gaps with the municipal police forces. The towns, as with all towns, they tend to be regional service centers. So while the town funds police services based on a population of 9,500 people, and probably cut that in half, and that's your taxpayer base, the town services up to 40,000 people daily, as it's a regional services. And serving 40,000 people daily increases our police calls, or calls for police services, but yet this is being funded by the residents within the town of Bridgewater only, and that was the theme for the other police services as well. Some of the workable solutions that were discussed: the additional officers program. It was felt that perhaps if they provided the funding directly to the municipal police forces and the police forces hired those resources, that could solve some of the issue. An obvious one was that the province needs to resource itself appropriately so it can handle mental health and addiction issues, as opposed to putting those pressures on municipal police forces who are often not trained to handle those types of situations. And there needs to be a funding model for municipal police forces that recognizes that they often serve a larger population than the residents that live within the town boundaries that they service. They asked for some comment on provincial police standards, as those are reviewed, and it was felt that police standards should focus on core policing services, and any specialized policing services should come with training and funding. And, and training should be obtainable. So if you put in a standard, you should be able to get the training or access to the training. And standards should address equivalency requirements, so that if you come from another country, that there's those equivalency requirements in place within the standards. They talked about a regional hub model that should be explored for training, equipment, and specialized support services. So that would be provided regionally, and it should be funded by the province. And in terms of collaboration with between municipal, should say police and the RCMP, the general comment was that there are no barriers to collaborating with other municipal police forces. In fact, we often share resources. And locally with the town of Bridgewater Police Services, there's been no difficulties encountered in collaborating with the local RCMP detachment here. At the session, it was noted that the RCMP can have priorities and operating models that are different, and sometimes that can impact our collaboration, but we haven't experienced that at the Bridgewater area, in the Bridgewater area. And interoperability, standards and training, standardized training and equipment would facilitate collective buy-in and training and lower costs. So they suggested that we look at standardizing those things as part of the police review as well. And those were the general comments that were made, and it's what is being proposed to be provided as the town's response to the survey if council's in agreement with the statements that are contained within. And if there's anything missing that council feels should be included, certainly you can do that as well.
It's going to be a long discussion, I think, in terms of the back and forth we're going to have with the province and the Department of Justice and other municipal units. In my 16 years, most of those were spent on the police commission. I think that's the first time we have met just as municipal units with municipal police services in that capacity. We've had NSAPG conferences and things like that, but just the Nova Scotia communities that are kind of feeling the same thing we're feeling was a very interesting discussion. We're not alone in those, in the pressures we face, but there were a lot of positives that I took away from it as well. So in terms of the content of the letter, I don't know if anyone has any questions or concerns with what's going to be sent. No? Okay, someone prepared to make a motion to send that? Councillor Caldwell, thank you.
I move the town council for the town of Bridgewater direct the chief administrative officer to submit the response to the NSFM letter regarding municipal policing as presented in document 24-082A.
Perfect, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Conklin. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We are down to the end of our meeting. A reminder that we have 2 items to discuss in camera under contract negotiations under the Municipal Government Act. Can I please have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Conklin, seconded by Councillor Tanner. We are adjourned.